The Drug Alternative Program presents Drugs Close to Home. Your weekly insight into the ongoing stories of struggle, victory, and the spiritual renewal of rehabilitation. Each week, Cliff and Freddie Harris, co-founders of the Drug Alternative Program, would like to introduce you to the many people who have touched their lives through their spirit-filled ministry. But most of all, they would like to share with you the blessings they continue to receive from Jesus Christ. And now, your hosts of Drugs Close to Home, Cliff and Freddie Harris.
Welcome to Drugs Close to Home, a program about the destruction that drugs causes our families.
And the power of Jesus Christ that heals them. And we believe every life is worth saving.
And Freddie, that is so true because every changed life is a miracle from God.
Amen. You know, honey, we never really had a formal wedding. And I remember our 21st wedding.
Oh, yes, I remember that. Okay.
You know, Yolanda and Schubert Palmer, they decided to bring 50 couples together and have an anniversary. So Yolanda asked us to join. So we said, okay, fine.
Yes.
And, you know, I had a white dress, but I'm driving down the street one day, and the Holy Spirit impresses me to go to my favorite store, which is near New, a thrift store. And I said, Lord, I've already been there this week, and he just impressed me to go. And you guys, I walked in the store, and as I walked in there, I saw this beautiful wedding dress. And I said, that is so beautiful. So I tried it on, and the dress fit me perfectly. And I said, this is the dress you want me to wear, Lord? And he impressed me, yes. And I'm walking out the door, and the clerk says, oh, you got that dress. I have the veil to go to it. And she gave me the veil, and the whole thing was like $150. And as I walked out, I said, Lord, you want me to have this? And he said, I want you to have it. So when we were preparing for the wedding, Yolanda said, listen, we want, and the Lord impressed me, you will be first in line of these 50 people. So I kept that to myself, you know. And so we got to rehearsal, and Yolanda said, well, Cliff and Freddie, you will be number 4 because you guys are the tallest of the newest people. So we said, okay. And so that morning, we got there for the wedding. She says, Freddie, I changed my mind. You and Cliff will be first because you've been married the longest.
All right. But I want to tell the audience this one thing. I rented some shoes to wear, and you talk about hurt my feet. Oh, I mean, during the whole walk, the ceremony, and everything of standing, my feet were killing me.
But also, Cliff asked Yolanda, he said, Yolanda, I've never seen my bride walk down the aisle because we were supposed to walk in as couples. He
and
said,
I wanted to see you walk down.
He said, do you mind if I stand down front so I can see Freddie walk in? And he let me.
And you were beautiful too.
And he
honey.
walked down. I walked down, but he just had tears just streaming down. So that was the wedding we never had. That was special.
Praise the Lord. We need to get to our guests, Freddie. We have someone. All our guests are special.
Right.
But this is another special guest. Okay.
This is Shannon Small. Welcome, Shannon.
Thank you.
Okay, Shannon.
Tell us, Shannon, what do you do?
Well, right now I work in finance. I'm a senior administrative assistant for Loma Linda University.
So you're in a senior position on your job?
Yes.
So people work up under you?
Well, we work together.
Yeah, well, I mean,
we
but
take care of the bosses and not the professors, the deans and the assistant deans and the associate deans, and we make sure that they're. So you have an
important position at Loma Linda University.
Yes.
Yes.
How long have you been there?
Yes. Well, in this particular job, I'm going on my 3rd year in July.
Oh, good.
Praise Him.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to ask you straight out. Have you ever been a drug addict? From being what you do now, and you know.
Yes, I was.
So tell us about that. Tell us what your life was like, and you know, some things.
Okay. Well, growing up, grew up in a very blended family. The family I had 7 siblings, step, half, and I had the step parents and the biological parents, and so there was a lot of love in the family, but there, you know, the parents were separated. Even though they were all friends, they were separated. So everyone worked and kind of left the kids to their own devices. Sometimes left the eldest to watch the youngest, and that was not really a pretty thing. So a lot of things went on in the home. And then later on, there was people who were invited to live in the homes of the parents and things like that. And not really a good thing to do, but grew up with a lot of sexual things going on in the home.
Molestation?
Molestations,
Were you molested?
fondling. Yes, I was. By 3 different people. None of which were the parents, but people whom parents have brought into their homes. So of course, at the age of 12, I discovered drugs, and that was probably one of the highlights of my life, because the things that were happening were so obtrusive in my life, and I'm sure in some of my other family members' lives, you know, that's not much talked about, but it was a remedy for me. So at age 12, I had a friend who got me involved because I was really actually scared of drugs.
What was that drug that you took the first time?
The first thing that I took was marijuana.
Okay, and it went from there.
Well, it did go from there. After I had gotten kicked out of junior high school, my mom sent me to one of the abusers' house because she didn't really have any other options to.
After you told her?
After
But she didn't believe you.
I don't think that she didn't believe me. I don't think that she had any other options where to send me. So.
When you say sent you, was this just for a day, or she sent you to stay there?
Well, I was expelled from junior high school until they figured out, and I had my hearing because I was caught with marijuana. I was smoking marijuana in the bathroom. There was a hearing that was going to be, but meanwhile, I was out of school for that amount of time. And so that was the place that she sent me day after day after day. So.
Were you still being molested by this person where you were staying? You stayed with?
Every day he would send my sister off to go do something, and my sister was very obedient to him, and because she lived there, and every day he would send her off to the grocery store for an onion or a tomato or something, you know, and for a reason to get me. And one day I ran to the car and I told her, I said, "Don't leave, don't leave, don't leave." And she didn't know what else to do. She had to go. She knew she had to go. She left, and it happened again. And then after that, she said a light went out in my eyes. All I knew is I wasn't having it anymore. So I ran away from home. And so when I ran away from home, that wasn't much of an option either, because everywhere I stayed, I had to pay my dues. So
in other words, at a young age, your life wasn't too beautiful.
no, it wasn't.
And
No.
did it get heavier into drugs? Did you get heavier into it? Or?
I did. After that, being so young, it became pretty, I got pretty involved into sex and got very promiscuous. And so I had boyfriend after boyfriend after boyfriend. And I had this one boyfriend who had taken me to his house, and nothing happened, but he introduced me to methamphetamine. But because it was a guy, I didn't trust him. So I was really afraid to do anything. So I didn't do anything. But that was my first introduction to methamphetamine. But my best friend, whom my mother trusted, and she was a family friend, she later on introduced me to meth about the age of 14. And I trusted her. She told me everything that was going to happen, how it was going to affect me, and so I wasn't afraid anymore.
So fast forward into your adulthood, what was the turning point in your life?
The turning point in my life was when I was about 26 years old. I was tired. I wasn't getting any thrill out of the drugs. I don't think I really was, you know. And I was driving to go pick up because I never was without. I never wanted to be without. And I was driving to go pick up, and I was kind of looking over the horizon as I was driving, and in my thoughts I thought, God, is this all the life that there is for me? Is this it? Because if this is it, you know, what is there to live for?
Yes.
You know, I was just so tired. It was so dark and so.
There's no joy. There's no peace.
No.
No peace within when we're running and doing those drugs. Because I know I was the same way. You know, I wanted some peace of mind.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and I felt so critical on myself. And because I felt critical on myself, I was critical on others, and I hated people. I could not stand people. You know, I mean, to think that to save somebody's life, I had no trust in anybody. Well, that very day was the first time that I had went up to a bingo place, and I don't do bingo, I don't gamble. And I was sitting in the car, bouncing my music, and and doing my makeup, and just waiting because somebody ran in to go do the pickup for me. And a security guard came by and told me that I wasn't allowed to sit in my car. Well, I didn't know the rules of the parking lot, let alone the casino, because I don't go there. And so we started talking, and he was telling me about the rules and the instructions. And just about the time he was going to leave, he shone his light on my face right about the time I looked up, and my eyes didn't dilate. And so he goes, then he asked the question, "Are you on drugs?" Well, no. No. "Are you sure?" "Yeah." And then he kept trying to shine the light, but I would not look at him. I knew. And he'd get out of the car, so I got out of the car, and then I started to panic because I don't, you know, handle that kind of stress too much.
Let's stop right there, and we're going to pick that up. We want to take a break, and we'll be right back.
God plays a great role for me, because when we get up early in the morning, when we do worship and we open up our day with God, the rest of the day goes good, you know. But when we don't have God and when we neglect and push God away, then we don't have a great day. But most definitely we need God, and most definitely I need him every day. So without God being in DAP, I don't even know what it'd be a DAP, because God is the most important component of DAP.
I live in a home, and love is pouring out right where I'm at. And it makes me feel more blessed every day that the care is there for me, which it wasn't like that before.
When I first came to DAP, I was surprised about the place that we were going to stay in. It was, I did not expect the place that it was like a house setting. I did not expect the furniture, the TV, the dining room. I thought it would be more like a clinical setting, like a bed, you know, a place to, like, a convalescent place or something like that. I did not expect the house, like a neighborhood setting.
What I look forward to the most is most definitely always going to be seeing lives change, because that's the reason I'm here, you know, and that's the reason I want to stay here and do what I do, because I get enjoyment out of it when I see people's lives are changed, you know, because that's what it's all about. As Ms. Harris always say, you know, God got us together to do service, to do his work. We are his hands, we are his eyes, we are his mouth. So, and I get enjoyment out of that, just to give back, to see someone else's life change just like mine was.
For all the different things that I would like to share that I see the donors doing, and I've been involved with DAP for 15 years, and I've seen a lot that the donors have contributed to many lives, allowing men to get their relationships back with their families. By them donating to DAP, they allow us to grow spiritually, physically, mentally, with the counselors who are able to come because they can afford to have good counselors because of the donations. The equipment that we have that we're able to get out and work and to help pay for the stay here in DAP.
My name is Pierre.
My name is Duncan Yangao.
My name is Marshall Davis.
My name is Savas Leon. My name is Leonard Walsh.
My name is Frank Celis.
My name is Brian Brockway.
I'm from Seattle, Washington.
I was born in the Philippines.
I was born in Watsonville, California.
I'm from Florida.
I'm from Hesperia, California.
I'm from South Bend, Indiana.
I am a client at Drug Alternative Program.
I'm Lonnie Shattuck. I'm a 2000 and a 2010 graduate of Drug Alternative Program.
Welcome back. We're talking to Shannon Small, who was telling us her story. Rest of the story, Shannon.
Okay. So after the security asked me to step out of the car, and I was a little panicked, like I had said. I was caught with drugs. He found marijuana in the car and other methamphetamine on me, and then I was arrested. I was put in jail for 5 days, and knew that's not the place I wanted to be. So eventually, of course, I was released, and then they filed. And when they filed, they sent me through a program called Drug Court.
Okay.
Best program in the world.
All right.
Well,
Okay.
for me it was.
Yes.
And so I went through that for a whole year, and
through this whole year doing this program, you were determined not to go back, right?
that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And because of being in jail, that was told you a lot. Now, this connection with Christ is beginning to come in.
Yes.
Am I right in that
You're
sense
absolutely
of the
right.
story?
Yes.
Okay. Now, doing all of this determination that I know there was struggles going on within you that maybe I can go and get one more or do this one more time. Did you go through those kind of struggles?
Not too much. Actually, I had somebody that was prompting me. Oh, you can just use up until you are tested. You can do this. So I tried, and I tried a little bit, but the jail wasn't completely it for me. But when I got into that program, I told God, because I really wanted to please God all through my life. I always had a connection with God. I always knew He was there, but I didn't know how to connect. So when I told God, when I was in the program, I told God, you give me the tools that I need, and I will give you 100%.
Praise Him, praise Him.
Yeah, so from there
In
on.
other words, that was the determination.
I was tired.
Yes.
I was so
I can
tired.
understand that tiredness.
It's the only life I knew because I was 12.
Yes.
You know, when I started, and I didn't know anything else. So anyways, as I went through the program, it worked well. I mean, I seen a lot of people in the program relapse and come back, and I knew that they weren't tired, but I knew that God was working in my life for something more. So,
So how did you come back to the church?
okay. Well, I ended up coming back to the church because I moved in with my father, and he was so gracious to take us in after. He was the only one in our family that did not give up on me.
Amen.
Praise the Lord.
Everybody else was like, forget it, she's going to die, we fight too much, but my dad never, he was always at my apartment when I was on drugs.
Yes.
I mean, he endured so much, to watch his daughter be the way that she was, but my mom on the sideline somewhere, wherever she was always praying, and I knew that. Anyways, so I moved in with my father, and every week I started noticing my dad, and he's done it before, but it really just never hit me. He was always taking my children to church, And the Lord pricked my heart one day and says, you should be doing that.
Yes. That's the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So I thought, yeah, I probably should be doing that. So the next week, I decided to go. And because my kids would come home, Mommy, you should go sometimes too. So it was kind of filling me up a little bit with guilt and things. So I took them the next week. And the first day I went there, I was kind of staying by my dad's side because I always felt like I was being judged. And I always had that judgment feeling, you know, everybody was looking at me. So I kind of stood by his side, and everybody was talking to him and everything, and nobody said a word to me. And I was just like, wow, okay, so maybe this is just not the place. So I went home that day, and I told God, I'm never going back. Those people don't even reach out.
Because nobody spoke to you, nobody reached out to you.
Nope, didn't say hardly a word. And if they did, I don't remember it because it just wasn't, it didn't have an impact, you know. And so I stayed home for the next 2 weeks telling God, nope, I'm not going back. Forget it, forget it. Those people, they don't reach out. They don't do this, you know, and being critical again. And the Lord spoke to my heart again and says, you're not there for them. You're there for me.
Amen.
Why don't you reach out?
All right.
And I was like, what? Me? I don't reach out. You know, that's their job, not mine. You know, and so I went back, and again by my dad's side, and they were talking to my dad, and I said, hi, I'm Shannon. And they were like, so that was just the beginning. I mean, from then on out, I knew my purpose there was not because of them, but because of God. And through that, I learned to go to church.
Okay. Now tell me this. I want to know this. How did you get into Loma Linda?
Well, that's a
With a record.
Well.
Little stain of that rest. Okay.
Okay. So I was on welfare for about 9 years of my life, and I went through their programs, and I was very thankful for what they offered. And what I ended up doing was when I was working for the school district, and I didn't have really good work ethics at the time, so I still did what I wanted to do, even though I was going to church. I still did what I wanted to do. So what ended up happening was I got fired from that job, and welfare called me up and said, well, you need to go back to this program because if you don't, you're going to lose your welfare. And I said, well, that's okay. And so the worker came out to my house, and she sat down and she was talking with me, and she says, you know, you need to go back to this program or you're going to lose all of your income. And I told her, I said, you know what, I really appreciate all that you guys have done for me, but there's nothing more that you can teach me. And so I said, you know what, I will take my chances. And so she got up, and I told him, thank you. She got up, she shook my hand, she goes, wow, I wish there was more like you.
All right.
So then on, I started just putting in applications, doing everything that they taught me to do. And my aunt said, give me one of those applications. And so she worked for the accounting department at the time.
In Loma Linda.
In Loma Linda. And she takes my application and she goes and she tosses it on the assistant controller's desk at the time. And she goes, see what you can do with that.
All right.
And so they called me, and then they were actually hiring for 2 positions. So another person was called as well, and we were both hired on. But as we were hired on, I wasn't completely permanent yet because I was kind of being held because of the record. The record wasn't showing anything because all my charges were dropped, but it was showing something. So
you are blessed.
I was called in
Yes.
by this lovely lady, and she wanted to know, and I told her, I said it was because it was a drug arrest. I had went through a program.
I want to bring this out. You know, honesty is the most important thing in our life.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And you know, God will reward us.
That's true.
For honesty.
For honesty.
Right.
And that's one thing I knew I had to learn when I was doing my drug thing and when I had changed and come around, you know, and changed my life. that I had to be honest about everything in dealings with what I do
Yep.
and what I've done.
That's true.
You know, our
That's true.
time is running out, but we wanted to speak to let the audience know that your father of your children is a client in our program.
That's correct.
You have 3 children,
I have 3 children.
2
yes.
daughters,
And a son.
and a son.
Yes.
And their father is in our program.
That's right.
And he was on the streets, I mean, at rock bottom. And although you have never been married to him, you had a concern for him, and you told him about drug alternative program. What happened?
Well, I was really sad that he was out on the streets, and I knew that there was nothing that I could do, because anytime I did something for somebody, I felt like I was standing in the way of God doing something for them. So what I ended up doing was I called you guys, and after I had researched you online for a day and a half, and I just thought, wow, this is just great. So I thought, okay, what's he going to do? What's he going to say? Okay, God, it's on you. It's all on you. God kept, prompting me, just present it to him. Just present it to him. Okay. So one Sunday, he was bringing in his trash dug items and storing them and doing whatever he was doing. And I walked out there, and he just looked so bad. He was so skinny and just so head down all the time, and it just wasn't fair, because he had so much to offer life,
Yeah.
And I walked out there and I said, how do you feel about going to a program? And I explained to him what the program was, and then in the very last part of my explanation, I said, it's Adventist.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. It was just like, inside I was like, oh, he said yes. But I had to kind of, control my demeanor and everything.
Well, there's
So-
one thing I want to mention, because we're running out of time here, is that we all are going to work and pray and be patient with him, that he will not only complete the program, but make that change that God can do for him.
Praise God.
And let's continue to pray for him in that part.
And
We
thank
wanna-
you for reaching out to him.
Yes.
Oh,
And I know it was difficult for you,
right.
but we want to thank you right here. I always talk about the telephone, so give us a call. Our number is right there on the screen. If you need some help or information, and maybe you might know someone who's on drugs and might need some help, have them call us. We'll be glad to do what we can do to help you.
Sharon, thanks so much for sharing your
Thank
story.
you.
I know it's
Thank
going to
you.
help someone else.
Oh, I hope so.
And remember, we love you,
And Jesus loves you even more.
and we will see you again real soon.